Nice to be back. Okay, wow. Okay, thanks, Ray. Okay, I want to start with a dream that I had. I had a dream where I was on a train, and in the dream there was lots of terrorism. Terror everywhere, and it was frightening. And then after that, we went on a ride in the country in a car, and there was less terror. There was still terror, but it was a lot less. Excuse me, I'm out of breath. So anyway, in the dream, I looked at my friend and I said, the beautiful part about a dream like this is that in the relief between the incredible terror and the less terror, it's just so wonderful, just the relief itself. And I put my hand on my heart, and I started to cry. And in that, I had a huge rush of energy in the dream, and I was able to fly. So I was able to be like Superman and kind of.
And what was the terror level there?
It was gone. Also, in the relief, all of it goes away. Okay.
In other words, from your terror in the city, you weren't able to fly, but you were able to make it to the country. And in the country, where there was even less, then off you go. In other words, it's just step by step finding relief. That's what that dream was telling you. Can't necessarily find it right here today, but I can point myself in the direction of where I think well-being is. And that's really the message of this dream. Terror makes you want well-being. And so as you turned your thoughts toward well-being, you were guided in your dream to increasingly more and more peaceful places.
So basically, I want to take that dream and apply it to, I have a lot of beautiful things in my life, a lot of joy, a lot of success. But it just basically, like everybody, I have negative thoughts that I want to change. I want to move up the emotional scale. And so I was wondering if I could...
So our question to you is, do you have to go from whatever level of negative thought you have to a bouncing off the wall, beautiful thought? Or can you go to the country first?
Okay, that's what I want to do. So my question is, could I use the process of positive aspects to do that? And the question is, could I take appreciating or find positive aspects in my suffering in the sense of because that's what I want to do. Okay.
Yes, because you see, when you say I'm looking for positive aspects, we need to add to that, I'm looking for the most positive thought I can find from where I am right now on this particular subject.
Yeah.
We're not saying I'm going to think the most positive thought I've ever thought, because you might not have access to the most positive thought you've ever thought from where you are right now. So when you say I'm going to reach for the best feeling thought I can find right here, right now, that's what your dream was saying to you. Isn't that wonderful to know?
Yeah, it's real nice. So when I'm in the midst of that, those thoughts that come up, like for example, I'm having.
And when you think about it, when you have a negative thought and you know it's negative and you try to find a positive thought, isn't just a less negative thought more positive than a more negative thought? So if you, instead of saying I'm going to go from a negative thought to a positive thought, you could say, or I'm just going to drop the oars on this negative thought. I'm just going to stop beating this drum. And what we want to suggest is that when you stop beating that drum and you let go of the oars, your boat will turn automatically. And as it turns, then the more and more positive thoughts are easy to find. Esther's been taking this to heart, and so as they're driving, Esther will be in the front of the bus driving, and Jerry's in the back of the bus doing something or other, and Esther will say, "Can you hear me?" And she will hear his voice from far back in the bus. "Yeah, wait a minute." And then he comes closer, 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 and then he'll say, "I'm here. What did you want to say?" And Esther will say, "Oh, never mind. I realized it's an upstream thought." Fortunately, he wasn't sitting right there. She would have just spit it out. But it took him long enough to get from the back of the bus to the front of the bus that she had a chance to think about whether she really wanted to put words to it or not. You see what we're getting at? Mm-hmm. And so as you realize how important it is for you to reach for increasingly better feeling thoughts, then before you know it, it just becomes the most natural thing you do. You just lean positive on every subject in time.
What I'm thinking is basically like examples. So like when my shoulder's hurting, if I can look at that and say, oh, it's going to be so wonderful when I feel the relief from that. When that goes away, the relief will feel so wonderful. I'm looking for because you say drop the oars, but you say we can't really let go of a negative thought until we have a more positive thought. So like I'm thinking more of examples. So if my shoulder hurts, I like say something like that, or if I'm feeling insecure in front of my boss, I might say, oh, is the insecurity, could I say the insecurity, wow, this insecurity is wonderful, because when it goes away, I'll feel the incredible relief from that, like I did in the dream.
Certainly, and if it makes you feel better. And oh, I had a dream about this very thing where I felt acute discomfort, and then I was in a new vantage point where I had less discomfort, and then I was in a new vantage point where I had no discomfort. So you just talk yourself into feel. You could say, my shoulder is hurting, and I'm looking forward to it not hurting. But often when you're talking about the hurting shoulder, you're amplifying the hurting shoulder. So just talking about it is more of that upstream thing. That's what we meant when Esther decides just not to talk about it. So then you could say, well, I'm not going to put words to this hurting shoulder. In fact, I'm looking forward to the time when the hurting shoulder will not exist at all. And meanwhile, and then there are a lot of things you could say. You could say, the discomfort that I feel means that help's on the way. The cells in my body are asking for energy, and the energy's coming, and I've got a little resistance going on, and that's why I feel this discomfort. But the good news is help is on the way. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of things that you could do in any moment to soften your resistance. And it's your job. That's what the art of allowing is. It's your job to figure out what they are. It's your job to figure out what you might say that makes you feel better. And how do you know till you say it? So if we were standing in your physical shoes, we'd try this, and 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 pretty soon we'd find something that would work, and we'd say, oh, that worked. I'll remember that worked. That really is. That's why we cannot effectively give you the right thing to say, because we're just really, really good at that. And all it does is show you that we're just really, really good at it. But when you, who may not be so good at it, practice until you get better and better at it, before long you feel invincible. And what you walk away from these exercises knowing is, while I can't change the circumstances this red hot minute, I can change the way I feel. Best example, and we'll wrap this up very quickly. Esther and Jerry were in the bus in San Diego, and Esther was working on the weekly tape program. And Jerry had done his part. He had given it to Esther, and she had 5 hours to process what she needed to do to get it in the FedEx box that day. And it needed to be in the box that day in order not to hold other people in the chain up. People have things they have to do with it. And so she was going to do it today. Today was the day she was going to do it. She announced that 2 days earlier. That's the day we'll do it. And so now the day had arrived. So Esther is sitting with her headphones on and the computer in front of her, and she is beginning the process. And Jerry says, it is a beautiful day. I think I'll take a walk. And Esther said, have a really good time. As she suffered the injustice of her life. And so Jerry, who had already done his work, flew out the door. His feet barely touched the ground. She saw him soaring across the pavement and through the gate out into the blissful world. And as she watched him go, she did not wish him to get run over or anything. She wanted him to have a lovely walk, but his having a wonderful walk on this beautiful day somehow made her feel like injustice had befallen her. And she sat there in resentment. And then she remembered what we've been talking about. And she said right out loud, I am where I am. And then she said, and I am going to do this. In other words, I can't not do this. It's not that I'm not going to do this. It's not that I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to do this or not. I am going to do this. But I have a choice about whether I do it in resentment or whether I do it in pleasure. Whether I do it because I have to or whether I do it because I want to. I have a choice in how I feel as I do this thing. And so Esther got herself turned around. She got thinking, of all of the places for anyone to have to do anything, can you find a more beautiful place than this? I can see sailboats going by, she said. Of all of the places in the world on this hot summer day all over the nation, I'm sitting here in San Diego with my windows open. How wonderful is that? Of all of the things that I have to do, this computer makes this job so easily. These headphones make it blissful. And the work that I'm getting to do, not only do I get to help in the editing of this, I get to help in the delivering of this. How good is my life? And in 2 or 3 minutes, she not only was not going upstream, she had come into full vibrational alignment with what was set into motion even before her birth. And we have to tell you that as she began the process, once she got turned in the right direction, she was blissful. By the time Jerry got back from his walk, he was soaring from his walk. Esther was soaring from her work, you see. And this is the thing that we really want you to hear. You have the potential in every moment to soar or not. You have the potential to complain and feel resentment or to look for positive aspects. In other words, this is the freedom that you have no matter what. And as you opt for the good feeling, high flying, in alignment with source feeling, what begins to happen is all of the circumstances of your life begin to come into play. And you find yourself not having to talk yourself into this downstream. Your life just takes you in this downstream pattern. So good to know.
Perfect.
Good time for a segment of refreshment. We are complete. And are you refreshed? Yes. Now what? We do not say that with trepidation. Only eagerness for what will come next. Stand if you think it's you. Yes.